As part of our Fab Fertile Method, we do recommend that couples see an acupuncturist. This can be really helpful with to prepare the body for pregnancy success. And there are a lot of acupuncturists out there, and you want to make sure that you select one that is right for you. So we are talking about the do's and don'ts about selecting an acupuncturist, what to look for, some of the mistakes that we regularly see. I'm excited to have you listen to today's episode so you can select an acupuncturist that is right for you. Take care and let's go. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Tsao-Lin Moy to the podcast, and we're digging into how to select a fertility acupuncturist. Tsao-Lin has over 19 years of experience as an expert in alternative and Chinese medicine. She's the founder of Integrative Healing Arts, which utilizes Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbal medicine, and energy healing to treat her patients. She's the author of the best-selling book, Will I Ever Get Pregnant? The Smart Women's Guide to Get Pregnant Naturally Over 40. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Joe, excited to have you back on the podcast.
So excited to be back. Thank you.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the do's and don'ts of finding a fertility acupuncturist. So we had a lot of questions on this, and as part of our Fab Fertile Method, obviously we're doing functional lab testing, diet and lifestyle changes, and we do recommend having an acupuncturist on your team. So this can be super impactful for fertility. If you're choosing IVF, if you're doing it naturally, acupuncture is always a good thing. So there's a lot of acupuncturists out there. And so how do we select a fertility acupuncturist? What are we looking for?
So that's a great question. Really important that they have experience in women's health. I'd have to say that like 95% of my practice is female. It's mostly women that are seeking services to improve their health, especially around fertility, right? But fertility for men is super, super important, right? And so better as like how you work, you working with both couples. Now, one thing is experience. So a lot of times people will make the mistake of like not recognizing, what amount, like a lot of the websites are the same, right? They all look the same. So it becomes very difficult to determine, what the qualification is. So if there are testimonials, you also want to look at how long the person has been practicing, right? Because without understanding about Chinese medicine and acupuncture, oftentimes people will just go back to how do they make decisions about something. They go, oh, well, let me look at the price, right? And with fertility, you kind of don't want to keep shopping or like try it, go to the next, or then maybe you say like, oh, it didn't work for me, when you most likely didn't, make the right fit. So important, you want to look at their education, are they licensed? Really important. You want to check how long they've been practicing. And if they do, specialize in, women's health and in particular fertility, because as you know, that by the time a couple is seeking services, most of them have gone through a more Western route. They're doing lots of testing, and maybe on birth control or taking medication. And so having somebody who is also well versed in the Western protocols to really be able to integrate and understand what's happening, right? And also to be able to articulate also what is, sometimes there's crossover in Chinese medicine, and sometimes there isn't. So important that there's a communication and that you have a good rapport, right? That you can speak to the person. Sometimes the practitioner doesn't speak English very well. They may be very good, but that can become a barrier, right? And you want to be confident. So those are the big things, and that they can work nicely if somebody is going to be uh, using a fertility clinic, that they're aware of the different protocols and, are going to work together, like as a team, right? So as a team, so for me, if someone's on a lot of medication, I will say, like fertility meds, I will say, is it, speak to your RE, your reproductive endocrinologist, if they're okay with you taking herbs or not, because we don't want to be working two different things. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And yeah, so if they're like off cycle or before they're going to go into working with a fertility clinic with like hormones, that would be a great opportunity to be trying some herbs or something, if appropriate, right? And you also want to make sure that the person is well versed in herbal medicine, certified, has done the studying, et cetera, and not just hand over formulas because they read that this is good for fertility, right? So,
And where do we find if they're certified? Is there like a body that we can go and check under there to see that they?
Absolutely. Well, in the U.S., there's the NCCAOM, which is where there is the database that shows that people have passed the exam, right? So there's a national board examination, and then there are state by state licensures. So some states, like here, this is a really, really, really important. In the US, a medical doctor for a lot of states does not have to have any training, right? Or minimum of like a few hundred hours, which could be like a video training to do acupuncture, right? So you have to look at what, again, you're going to go back to the training. Whereas someone who's trained in acupuncture, it's a master's, it's postgraduate level, it's at least 3,000 to 4,000 hours of training, right? So again, it's Western medicine. You can't really translate over that, oh, because I'm one doctor, I can do this other method. And so this is also like a really big issue, because a lot of times people feel like, oh, they must know. And in fact, they don't necessarily know, or they can, I don't say they can do harm, but if this is something that you're looking to include, you want to make sure that that person is expert in that field, right?
So that's with the NCCAOM.
AOM, yeah.
What's that stand
And
for?
I'm not sure where it is in Canada, but I know Canada has some pretty, strict regulations about the practice of acupuncture, right, in Chinese medicine, right? And those
Yeah.
are branches of Chinese medicine, right? Acupuncture is one of the 8 branches
Yeah,
within.
I've done a blog with an acupuncturist here in Canada, and so we talked about the body of the certifying body of them to look at. So you can check out fabfertile.com and search
Yeah,
acupuncture to look at that. But do you know what
right.
that NCCAOM stands for? Or
Oh, I have to look. I'm always like, it's the National Commission or National Council for Certification, NCC, AOM, Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. So it's the
oh, got it. Okay.
National Council. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because
roughly,
like I
yeah, three
always get
thousand.
confused because with the acronyms, what they are.
Yeah.
So they are the standard, right, for taking the board of exams. Now, what I have to say is, with any kind of board examination, and this is where having experience comes in, is any regulatory board, they're always looking at the minimum amount that you need to be able to pass to do no harm. You could do good, but to do no harm. So really, you pass that exam means you know enough that you could possibly help somebody, right? So important, the more that you practice, you actually get the experience of actually what you're doing, which means someone fresh out of school is going to have a limited amount of hands-on experience, right? And so, not that they can't help, but fertility, there are a few things: fertility, and then things like sports medicine, which I'm actually trained and certified in that, and things like facial rejuvenation, anti-aging require more advanced needling and understanding, right? So these are, to educate the public, you want to really kind of like look at a few different things. So the longer someone has been practicing, they, they have that body of knowledge, right?
So
That
that
they've applied, right?
that minimum of 3,000 to 4,000 hours. And okay, so there are, like you talked about, there are many, like maybe perhaps a naturopath or other physicians that add acupuncture, on, to their offerings.
Right.
And so how do we tell if that person has the level that we're looking for? Because with fertility, it's very specific. And even if they are a female hormone specialist and then they say they offer acupuncture, what do you say there?
Well, it's kind of it goes under their, what their license provides. Again, going back to, let's say, medical doctors in the US. I mean, there's only one state, I believe, which is Hawaii, that requires that even if you're an MD, you'd have to go through at least the 3 years of training. So if, depending on the naturopathic doctor, they may have done like a little bit of information about it, and they're allowed to practice it. But, the foundations, it's like the hundreds and the thousands of hours of the foundational knowledge and principles of how you would then treat somebody. So it's not like you open up a book, which I really get upset when I see it on TikTok. It's like, oh, these are like, this is this, and all of these symptoms equal this pattern. And that's not really true. That's only a part of it. As you know, that, what you're doing, what I do is highly tailored and personalized. Right? And so to kind of narrow it down to a bunch of symptoms, that's a very Western way of thinking. And in other forms of medicine, even though they say that they treat the whole person, they're still using a model of, it's like symptom based, and they're treating the symptom and not looking at in Chinese medicine, we look at root and branch, right? So root is really what's underlying, the branch is the symptomology. And so you treat both. Obviously, if you have aches and pains, which are, in your arm or leg, you're going to treat that, but also you're going to go to what the causal aspect is of it as well, and offer things for the person to do for themselves, right? Because it's really about transformation. So they like Western medicine, it's more of a transactional, even like, oh, take these supplements, they're all natural, and then this is the result we measure on a lab test. This is how, so transaction. Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine is transformational. We're looking at how that healing is happening within that person. That's what we're looking for. That's how they get better, right? It's a different mentality as well. Curative is really like healing, and healing is a process. So we're looking at shifting like the process of it, not so much like measuring all. I mean, their data points are important for sure, but as you know, everything that happens with couples that are struggling, all their data points can be normal. There's nothing wrong with you, right? And so those are based on those data points, but something's not happening, right? And so we are looking at a much broader spectrum of what is influencing that person.
Yeah, that's we look for those missed healing opportunities where conventional medicine is like everything's fine, you're good, and then you dig deeper and you actually find out there's a lot of things that can be addressed. People worry that you're not going to find anything, which when you look under the hood, there's otherwise people will be pregnant. Um,
Yeah.
so from a fertility acupuncturist standpoint, any other mistakes? So someone that's not trained, they're not licensed or
Right.
certified. Um, anything else you see kind of where people essentially it's wasting time, like we don't want people to waste time or money, so what are some other mistakes that you see?
Well, some of the mistakes that I see are that, and this happens, that there's, again, if someone is thinking from a transactional perspective, they're like, how many sessions do I need before I get to here, right? As if it's 10 sessions, 12 sessions, this is what should be happening. So that I see the expectations. Some people are looking at, when you look at statistics, you're always looking at someone else's numbers, and then applying it. So with acupuncture, you really need to have a conversation with the patient and really look at the different goals and the benchmarks, right, that are going to get that person to where they want to go. Uh, Sometimes people pick a practitioner based on what they want to hear. 10 sessions, 12 sessions, 15 sessions, really, like, oh, and then I get this. And the reality is that after a certain number of sessions, you will have an even better idea of like, okay, what's happening, right? Because again, you're looking at the process that's going on, how the person is responding. And you also are looking at what are they doing? Because I can spend an hour with a person and we're shifting the energy, their body is going into that rest and digest state, right? Acupuncture actually releases neuropeptides that actually help the body shift from that fight or flight into the rest and digest, right? And so that's that aspect of the body that balances the hormones, the sleep, all of that, which is what you need if you want to conceive, right? And where am I going with this? I think I just lost my train of thought here with it. So you're really like getting an idea of that they have that great, they feel really good. Okay, that experience, they come off and then they go right back into doing the same thing that they always do. And like overwork, overcommit, ignore, what they need to be doing on their own, and then they come back and they're like, oh, I don't really, I'm not really noticing that much of a difference. And so important is the integration process of allowing yourself to heal. And if you just jump back into the same stressful kind of a lifestyle and don't make those changes, then again, you're getting back to thinking, oh, this is a transaction thing. I just do this and then I get that. And really participating in your own wellness, which means they really need to shift the mindset of, what it is they want, to clear out things that are obstacles they may think are so important, right? And often I say, like, if it's not life or death, you have to look at it. Is it life or death? Really got to put things into perspective. Maybe things need to be pushed aside until after, especially if, someone is traveling a lot, those kinds of things. Like maybe, you need to talk to your employer and not travel. And, so things like saying, I can't do that. Then you have to, okay, you need to do like work a little bit here with it. Uh, you know, there have to be some other life changes. So that's something that, and I'm sure you see that too, right?
Yeah, we see that a lot with the type A busy professional. A lot of people we help are in the healthcare field, and many people come to me saying, "Do I need to quit my job?" Which we never advise to quit your job. But the whole is, how do you look within your job to set boundaries? Where are you working 80 hours a week, not taking a lunch, pushing, 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 and then, as you say, you're doing, you're in that fight or flight. Acupuncture and these sessions can help you, get back in that rest and digest. But then you throw yourself back in the fire again and not willing. Most times when you have the conversations, and if someone's not willing to budge or change, then that's when you need to consider leaving. But
Yeah,
how do you
there's that,
set boundaries around that?
exactly. And that's the there's also an aspect of, that energy, corporate America, I need to achieve, I need to work hard, hard, hard. And that's how I get to where I need to go, right? Like I got my job, I got my degree, like, and that same energy approach to now I want to get a baby, I want to get it. And the energy is really receive, right? The baby comes through you, not from you. It's a spiritual aspect too. You become this vessel where you're welcoming a life. Like we're looking at a creative process, right? So it's more than biology and hormones. And that's the thing, is like there's a part where you have to just, I don't say give up, but the idea, and this is what I've noticed, I can share this, and it's a mindset piece, and I know you know that it's a mindset piece too, and hopefully everyone listening, there's a mindset piece that even when I see women that are, a lot of attorneys, a lot of, managing director partners, that the moment that they even just think for a moment, like, is all this like corporate life worth it? Like the moment they question that, it's like an energy shift.
Yep.
It's that the energy shift where they can like just kind of release the attachment to all that stuff. And I think that makes a really, so then it's literally like where their priority changes, like an internal energetic shift of the priority of, yes, having a baby is maybe the most important thing in the world to me right now, right? Because it always seems like it's an either or, but the reality is right now, this is the thing. And my attention and my energy needs to be there and not so much on the things that are going to pull me away from, one of the greatest experiences, right? And I think they somehow know it. And of course, once you have a child, you really know, like, oh my God, I could have missed this incredible experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes a big difference.
Mothering yourself now exactly before the child comes to that receiving state, right? So it's like many people
Yes.
I always have the image of blowing down the highway with the pedal like rammed to the floorboard, like we're going like this, whereas we're still moving forward, but not in that complete panicked crazy pace that we need to push with that masculine energy. And how do we, and then almost like looking at the how many sessions and what is this, and our left logical brain, which has served us well, but
Right.
the other piece might have like we forgot about the right side creative, like bringing in life, all the things
Right.
that actually help our shoulders go down.
Yeah. Actually, since you're using the car analogy before and like looking under the hood, you're kind of looking at the more stressed you are, it's like how much mileage are you putting on your body, right? Like that. And in order to this big trip, having a child, you need to make sure that the car is safe, right? The wheels are aligned, like all the alignment, that you got enough fuel, that all of those things, that the engine is running properly before you're going to go on this big trip,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's don't treat your body, and this is like one of the because cars are always this analogy, because we live in this like factory idea of production and performance. But do you treat your body like a jalopy? You know what like one of those cars that you see that are like, they're barely, no hubcaps and dents, and the smoke coming out, and or do you consider your body to be more like a high performance machine? And as we know, those are always going in order to perform, they need to go to the shop and get tweaked. And so that's kind of like, if you want this performance, you need to be doing all of those things to be in the best shape, right? So the jalopy will get you only so far, but may break down along the way. But the high performance or well oiled machine is going to take you there in comfort, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that analogy of the car. Although I'm completely not a car person, but it
What
just
kind of
seemed
car
to
are you? Are you a Maserati? Like, what are you?
exactly the Ferrari. Okay, and so anything else from any mistakes that you see kind of with acupuncture? Anything that you're like, oh my goodness, why are they doing that? Like, let's do this.
Well, yes. So a lot of it is like taking on more. So often it's like, oh, now I need to work out. Well, I need like doing more, and that is really like you need to do a little less. So some of the dietary restrictions and that energy around it is also very, I would say, punishing and critical. There's a lot of the self talk, like that's a really big thing. That there is and again, the higher the achiever, there is oftentimes some kind of taskmaster, in their ear telling them they're not good enough. There has to be more. And when it's not happening fast enough, that it's hard for them to like remove it, because it always seems like I need to just put more in, because and that's a signal to me, energetically not enough, that there's something under there, the idea that there's that they believe at a deep level that something's wrong with them, right? And that's when you see that alarm, when especially when all the tests come back normal. Somehow their deeper idea or belief in themselves that there's something wrong and nobody knows about it, maybe even being an imposter may show up a lot. There's a lot of things that start to happen around fertility, especially for women, less for men. And I don't it's not that big a deal, but women, they really, it's that energy shows up a lot, right? And then again, we look at the mindset, and things. So one of the exercises that I have my patients do really early on, of course, is tracking their cycle. They need to like get acquainted with their body. Also, that's like one of the things a lot of them just don't know. They've handed over their cycle to an app on their phone. I say, well, do you know when you're, well, let me check my phone. Like, so there's a disconnection, right? So this reconnecting, mind body connection there. And then, to really like show them like, oh, this is really what happens. Your basal body temperature, cervical mucus, you're really like looking at, the different changes that are happening. So you will know when your most fertile time is. You need to know. And then this is really great information. If you end up going to a fertility clinic, you say, look at this, or with your doctor, they can actually indicate, oh, maybe there's some hormonal imbalances, or it's a great way to track for yourself, not to get crazy about it, but to really just like track and understand what your cycle is. Because a lot of times couples don't really even know when that fertile window is. And so really important to make that connection. So there's that. And then what negative things is somebody saying to themselves that is, there, because it is there. And because we all have that, right? We all have a little bit of it, a little bit, a lot, some things, sometimes a lot more. And to really like, what is that? And then to change it. Your body is healthy. This is the right time. You're ready. Right? So many of the things that the negative talk, the fear stuff, is creates more stress, and that's the struggle part of when something isn't happening and it seems so hard or taking so long, is because there are these other things that are on, kind of jumping in and making it very difficult. And then you got to like, okay, what is that voice? What is it saying? And I need to replace it, right? Because there's always going to be like talking in your head, right? So you just need to replace it and be aware of it and interrupt it. And that's a big thing, right? Those are recommendations I have people to.
Yeah, mindset is key. We see a lot of, that's why we take a mind, body, spirit approach. We see a lot of trauma associated with this. Childhood trauma, a lot of mother wound or like issues with mothers is really interesting.
Yeah.
We see, and then being able to reframe those thoughts, right? And I think so how does acupuncture to get us in? Because I know when I've had sessions, I haven't done them consistently, but when I have done them, I come out of there and I feel very zen-like and just almost like a bliss-like thing so getting myself into that parasympathetic state. So, which
you
is
mean the sympathetic state.
So, excuse me. Getting myself into out of the sympathetic into the parasympathetic.
Yeah.
When I'm in the session. But how do I? What was I going to say? So it's more so if you're having all these negative thoughts and you're feeling very overwhelmed, obviously acupuncture can help for, preparing the body for that's for pregnancy. But what about from a mindset stage to, get you out of that little.
Sure. Well, when people are feeling bad, that's one thing that will help them is to feel better, literally from the inside out, that feeling, so, how we respond to the environment, or let's say what somebody says that triggers a cascade of emotions. And then there's all emotions are chemical, right? We know that. And in Chinese medicine, that's different kinds of qi and energy. And then also physically, we do certain things, or we hold our breath, or our digestion gets disturbed. So it is we experience emotions physically, chemically, physically. And what acupuncture does is the release of endorphins, right? So those are feel-good chemicals. And that also relieves pain. And we know things like depression and pain are the same areas of the regions of the brain. So naturally, you feel better, and you can feel better about yourself, right? So you're not feeling like, oh, why am I saying these affirmations, or I don't feel good, right? So feeling better, you also then realize that you can feel better, and you do feel better. And it's actually your own chemicals that are doing it. And that's the important thing, is that we're not like giving you chemicals, like a drug or antidepressant or something, that it's your body that is actually manufacturing them. And from there, your channels are open. You can actually be like, oh, I do feel better. And then your thoughts also become more positive, right? So when someone is in the hole, depression, feeling bad, even though they know that what they're experiencing is not true, and they say, I know I need to do, I know it's really hard to see your way out. But once you're in a better space, you can actually look and go like, oh, okay, I know that was that. And then you can also go, I don't want to get into that negative thing again. And I need to, and they feel empowered to do more good things for yourself, right? When you feel bad about yourself, all you want to do is, not you, but people are like, oh, let me eat junk food, like kind of to feel better. But in fact, that later on makes you feel worse. When you feel better about yourself, you actually make better choices, right?
And so what about finding an acupuncturist that's close to us? Would we just look it up in that
Well, in the NCCOM, I'm not sure. There must be one that is in Canada. I should probably look for you.
Yeah, most of our listeners are in the States, so we can.
Oh, you are? Okay. So yeah. I would look at that. Yeah, I would look at that. You can also, by state, and I would actually enter in, acupuncture, fertility, and then you can, take a look with recommendations.
Okay.
And oftentimes if you know somebody who's worked with somebody, that they will as well.
Mm-hmm. And then really look for someone that's doing that, integrative, holistic approach, not just like, I want you to do 6 sessions and then we're going to get you to here. Like that's just
right.
The opposite
in some cases they're also, sometimes some practitioners are very like down on, Western stuff. They're very anti, like, oh, they, right. And while there is some truth to it, I'm not going to judge someone for making a choice that they want to go and do IVF, right? What I can do, if that's their choice, I'm not going to dissuade them. I'm going to try and support them and help them so that they can, the end goal is, for them to have a happy, healthy baby, right? That's the end goal. So important to support and help them with their decisions and help them to make better decisions, an informed decision about what they're going to be doing for themselves, right?
And then, so typically we're looking at it as an average of 1 to 2 times a week if we're in a treatment kind of plan. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, what I, since I don't know what the person, where where the person is, like if somebody ideally, I would say, if you want to get pregnant this year, give yourself at least 6 months to prepare. So not like, oh, what, now I'm ready to get pregnant. Now I want to do all of these things. It's really a matter of getting your body into alignment so that when you're like, okay, if I get pregnant now, this would be great. And so that's one of the things, like when I'm ready, let's do it now. And then they find out that, then they do the testing, like, ooh, maybe they've got a cyst or some other things. And so, it's like they're at the start line and then suddenly it's like, I'm sorry, you're disqualified from this race because you don't have like the right sneakers or, something like that. And so and that's kind of startling because like I had no idea. I thought it was going to be easy. And it's not that it isn't easy. It isn't easy. It's just that the preparation, like, people don't think about how much preparation that it takes, right? Because they're used to, I can order it on Amazon or something. Like everything is so immediate. And this is the important thing of educating, women, men, couples about, fertility, health in general, right? Taking care of yourself, because when you're going to be 50, 60, your older self is going to thank you for what you're doing for them now. So I would say you want to give yourself at least 6 months, because you need to organize your life also. If you want to start, adding in or trying yoga instead of those, super intense workouts. You want to like start to eliminate a lot of the caffeine, like slowly do those things. That's another thing. A lot of times once someone is ready, they make drastic changes to, like, I'm only juicing, I'm eating only this. And that's also a real shock to the system and very difficult to make major changes overnight. Right. And so that also puts them into a state of alarm. And so really like looking at, okay, my goal is to eat more plant-based. I'm going to like start, shifting out of that. So it's done with ease and not done with this energy of, oh my God, if I don't, like everything is crisis, right? So that's also, and I'm sure you see that too.
Yeah, it is. We do start people off with an elimination diet, but it's for 10 days, and it can be shocking to the system, because if you've been eating these foods, we see a lot of people with food sensitivities. So you're taking those foods out, and then, but it's not about you drinking green juice and starving. It's simply eating essentially, grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, veggies, and it's like real food. And some people are like, well, what do I eat? You eat real food, and you're not hungry and, in a corner just eating only plant-based or nothing. So it is. And then you start to really understand how the food impacts your body. And then the whole, mindset is key with all of this. Right. And if you're in that, the fertility industry sort of puts us in this big panic of, we have got to run and we've got to hurry. The eggs are too old. We're too old. The whole thing's over. And so, gradually making these shifts. Yeah. And if you're drinking 7 cups of coffee a day, like going down to none right away doesn't make sense. So you need to gradually do that. Right. So,
yeah, the alarmist stuff, but really, what you realize, and I hope this happens after, like getting pregnant and having a baby is a really big goal. And people are willing, sometimes not, but willing to sacrifice. They call it like sacrificing. The thing is that this is really a path and an opportunity to make those changes kind of for the rest of your life. Because if your lifestyle is such that you're struggling to reproduce, right? We look at animals in the wild when they're super stressed, or, or in a zoo, for like, we're kind of like in our own kind of a zoo or type thing. Is they can't reproduce, right? You can like, oh, their blood levels are perfect. They have a perfect diet, all the nutrients. They wouldn't have this in the wild. In the wild, they're half starving all the time, hunting, and yet they reproduce. So what we're looking at is that if the conditions right now that we consider ourselves healthy and we can't reproduce, then there is, and also expectation, right? We have to that. But the reality is if that is the case, then there's something bigger that we're not really looking at. So yes, we want to have a baby. This is the goal. This is like what's like opening up our awareness. But then we're looking at, if we weren't trying to have a child and we continued on this path of, our lifestyle, what else is, how is that affecting our overall health, our longevity, right? So that's the bigger thing, right? That's even bigger because as we see, how many people are so sick, diabetes, heart disease, cholesterol, hypertension, like all of those things, right? Quality of life. Right? And so this is like a bigger, discussion. Right now we're able to chunk it down because it's, we can, look at it in terms of fertility. But it's also a bigger area.
Yeah, setting up a strong foundation for your future family and really, looking at all aspects of your life and not all at once. We gradually make these changes. And then at the end of it, you're like, you didn't really, because it's typically not a sick population that we work with. But when they come to us, they don't know how poorly you don't know how poorly you feel. Exactly. Until you feel amazing. Because if you were well, you'd be pregnant. So,
or closer to
it. Yeah.
But most people are okay. They're not feeling great. Usually they feel good, but great. When they feel great, it's like, wow, how could I feel this way all the time? Right. And that is, this is a practice. Living is a practice. Like we have to always, like, we're cultivating it. And that's the thing. That's cultivating takes time. You plant the seed, the soil, the seeds, the sunlight, after, a certain amount of time, then the plants grow and then you have the harvest, right? And it's the same with our body. We need to prepare.
Yeah. And with the plant thing, there's studies where you're talking crap to the plant and the plant croaks.
That's right. Exactly. So we need to, that's the vibration and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And there also is that analogy too, where it's like, wait a minute, the person over here that is not taking care of their health, they are what you would consider not healthy, and they're pregnant. And so, wait a minute, I'm over here doing all these changes. The thing is, and so I was diagnosed with premature ovarian insufficiency at 28. So for me, my health and food sensitivities and gut infections, mindset, whatever was happening at that stage, chronic stress impacted my fertility. Other people, it's other things. So it's very hard when we're like, wait a minute, you consider yourself most people fairly healthy, but for us, it's gone after our fertility. And so how do we then optimize our health? And
that's right.
The comparison thing can be dangerous in all aspects of life.
Compare and despair. Yeah.
Thief of joy. Yeah. All those ones. And so any final thoughts, Cho, on our topic today?
Well, I'm really excited to actually just share all this information. And I hope that, the people that are following you or listening, that they're getting a different perspective and maybe even a bigger perspective about their overall health and really like thinking about it. With that in mind, you really kind of want to look at, there is a genetic factor and a behavioral factor about health. And I always ask, in terms of like, well, did your parents have difficulty? What else was going on there? To really, to see if there's something more of a inherited. Most of the time it comes from, being stressed out, environmental things. And I'm sure you work with, your couples about getting, off of plastic stuff in their house. Right. Like, and, wherever, the point is wherever you can make those changes, that you need to do it, for even a bigger reason, environmental, right? For your health, for the future of, your children, right, etc. So that's what I would like. This is a bigger topic than just fertility.
Absolutely. Okay. And you have a free chapter here. I'll have the link in the show notes.
Yes.
It's an integrative healing arts, .involve.me, but I'll have the the link in there, and you've got a book club going on. So can you just kind of
Yes.
share what they get with this free chapter
Yeah.
and kind of what's happening?
So the chapter that they get the free download with is the one of the most important chapters, which is about perfection,
Nice.
and how that can really block getting pregnant for many of the things that we were talking about before. And then also, if there's an invitation to join, it's an exclusive book club. So I'm just starting it out. It's for free. I'm going to limit it to just probably like 15 people. And we'll go over you'll get a Zoom link if you sign up for it. And you'll need to buy the book online. And we'll go over, several like chapters. I'm looking at like a 6-week book club, and it'll be like 45 minutes. We'll go over the chapters, discuss it, and then have some Q&A, right? And so you get a lot of personal attention from me, especially if you're not able to see me because I'm in New York City. But you get an opportunity to, read about how I work, and also some suggestions, right?
Awesome. And this is Cho's book, Will I Ever Get Pregnant? The Smart Woman's Guide to Get Pregnant Naturally Over 40. So awesome, Cho. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, sharing your words of wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.